It really wasn't that long ago that selling a house felt like something out of a chaotic movie scene.
Oh, totally. It was completely wild.
Right. You'd hammer a standard for sale sign into the front lawn, throw the property onto the MLS, and then just, brace yourself for the absolute stampede of buyers.
Buyers who were waiving every contingency under the sun just to get a set of keys.
Exactly. But, welcome to 2026. The dust is completely settled, the wild frenzy is gone, and buyers suddenly find themselves in a position they haven't been in for a while.
They actually have choices again.
They have choices, which means if you are sitting there thinking about selling your property, simply throwing a listing on the market and crossing your fingers, well, it just doesn't cut it anymore.
No, it really doesn't. It requires an entirely different operational mindset now. We've transitioned back into a normalized real estate environment.
Right.
Where strategy, rather than just sheer desperation from buyers, actually dictates the final outcome of a sale.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. Welcome to this deep dive where we take a stack of information, source material, and research and distill it down to the absolute essentials just for you.
Glad to be here.
Today, our source material is this fascinating excerpt from a recently published guide called The 2026 Home Seller's Strategic Playbook.
Yeah, it's a great read.
It really is. It was written by a real estate expert who specializes in helping homeowners down in Sarasota, Florida. But as you'll see, the lessons we're going to pull from this apply well beyond the Florida coast.
Oh, absolutely. The principles are universal.
Our mission today is to extract the underlying psychology and the actual, boots-on-the-ground strategy of selling a home in today's market.
Because you really need to understand precisely what separates a home that sits untouched for 60 days from one that sells quickly and profitably.
Yeah, and if there is one overarching theme to keep in the back of your mind as we go through this material, one core philosophy, it's what the author calls proactive positioning.
Right, proactive positioning. It's this realization that a successful, profitable sale is never the result of good luck while the house is actively on the market.
So it's not just about timing.
Not at all. The success you want is actually engineered weeks before the for sale sign ever hits your front yard.
Okay, let's unpack this because the author breaks this down into some very specific, actionable rules that any seller can follow.
And the whole process starts right at the very beginning of the seller's journey, which is the initial listing.
Specifically, the material talks about the home's debut, which heavily hinges on two critical things right out of the gate.
Yeah, those two pillars are price and the very first photo. In a normalized market like we have in 2026, the most critical window of time you will ever have is those first 2 to 3 weeks.
Just the first few weeks.
That's it. That is the golden window when buyers and their agents pay the absolute most attention to a new listing hitting their feeds.
Oh, wow.
And yet, this is the exact moment where sellers tend to make their very first and often most damaging strategic mistake. The data highlights an immense temptation among sellers to price the home high, quote, just to see what happens.
Oh, I can completely empathize with the logic behind that, though. It feels incredibly safe from the seller's perspective.
Sure, it feels logical.
Right. It's your home. You've poured your life and money into it. You value it highly. And the thought process is always, well, we can start high, test the waters, and we can always lower the price later if we need to.
It feels like you have a built-in safety net.
Exactly.
It is a very natural human instinct to want to maximize your return by testing the absolute ceiling of the market. The problem is that the market rarely tolerates that kind of testing anymore.
Because buyers are smarter now.
Partly, yeah. But the author points out a devastating psychological effect that occurs when you take that let's just see approach. If your price is demonstrably too high from day one, qualified buyers, the exact people you desperately want walking through your front door, simply scroll past your listing.
Wait, they don't even try to negotiate.
No, they don't negotiate down from a high price. They just ignore it. They don't even bother scheduling a showing. So your home just sits there accumulating days on the market.
That's so rough.
And by the time you finally decide to deploy that price reduction you thought was your safety net, the initial excitement of a new listing has completely evaporated.
The freshness is totally gone. You're basically yesterday's news in a market that is obsessed with what just hit the feed today.
Exactly. And that loss of freshness triggers an entirely new problem. A psychological barrier instantly goes up for the buyer.
Because they see the price drop.
Right. The moment they see a home sitting on the market with a fresh price drop banner across the listing, the immediate cynical question they ask themselves is, what is wrong with this house?
Oh, man. So suddenly they aren't looking at the beautiful kitchen countertops or the upgraded lighting fixtures.
Not at all.
They are zooming in on the photos, wondering if, like, the foundation is cracked or if the roof is caving in or if the neighbors are terrible.
Yeah, that shift in perception is incredibly hard to reverse. And there's a really fascinating irony revealed in the data here.
What's that?
Overpriced homes that eventually undergo price reductions often end up selling for less overall than comparable homes that were simply priced correctly from the very start.
Wait, really? For less?
For less, you actually penalize yourself financially by trying to test the waters with an inflated price. Buyers smell the desperation of a lingering listing, and their offers reflect that.
That is wild to think about. You try to squeeze out a few extra $1,000s at the beginning and end up losing significantly more than you would have if you had just been realistic and data-driven from day one.
It's a tough lesson for a lot of sellers.
I bet. And that brings us to the second part of this critical debut window, right? The digital presentation. The source material makes it very clear that in 2026, nearly every single buyer meets your home online long before they ever step foot inside.
It is the definitive first impression. The lead photo of your listing is essentially the thumbnail for your home's entire existence on the open market. It is the single deciding factor in whether a buyer clicks to see more or keeps scrolling.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because reading through this section, all I could think about was setting up a dating app profile.
That analogy tracks perfectly with the digital filtering behavior we see in real estate today.
Right, because if you are on a dating app and you use a terrible first picture, let's say the lighting is dark, the image is blurry, the background is incredibly messy, or maybe it doesn't even really capture your best features, what happens?
You get swiped left instantly.
You get swiped left instantly. The other person on the other side of the screen does not take the time to read your bio to find out you have a fantastic personality or a great job. They're just gone. On to the next profile.
Yep. And the author is saying the exact same mechanism applies to selling a house right now. The digital filtering process is brutally efficient.
So if the photo isn't perfect,
if the professional photography isn't flawless, if the interior lighting is gloomy, if the landscaping looks overgrown in that primary exterior shot, buyers just keep scrolling. They swipe left on your house.
wow.
And a missed click means a missed showing. And a missed showing means a missed offer.
Right. The funnel just stops there.
Exactly. Professional photography, meticulous staging, immaculate landscaping. The text insists these are no longer optional extras or luxuries just for high-end homes.
They're mandatory.
They are the absolute baseline requirements to even get someone to pause their thumb from scrolling past your property. The goal is to create a digital aesthetic that demands attention.
Okay, so we have the house perfectly priced from the moment it goes live, and we have a flawless dating app-worthy first photo that makes people stop scrolling in their tracks.
Check and check.
But building directly on that idea of the digital debut, the conversation naturally shifts to who exactly we were trying to stop from scrolling.
Right, the target audience.
And this is where the strategy presented in the text gets a bit counterintuitive. The author argues that one of the absolute biggest marketing mistakes a seller can make is trying to make their home appeal to every single person looking for a house.
Which represents another one of those seller instincts that feels completely logical but is actually highly detrimental in practice.
Because you naturally assume that casting a wider net catches more fish, right?
Exactly. You want the listing to look like a blank slate so anyone can project their life onto it. But the reality of high-level real estate marketing is that when a home is marketed to everyone, it usually connects with no one.
So the strategy outlined here calls for identifying your ideal buyer. You have to create an archetype.
Yes, a very specific buyer persona.
Like, is the person who is most likely to buy your house a young family looking for a neighborhood with excellent schools? Or is it an empty nester retiree wanting a low-maintenance, single-story lifestyle?
Right. Or is it an executive relocating from out of state who needs a completely turnkey property they don't have to fix up?
Or maybe a luxury buyer who prioritizes absolute privacy.
Exactly. Once you pick that single archetype, you are supposed to tailor absolutely everything to them. The staging, the photos, the listing description, the video walkthrough, the social media advertising strategy, all of it laser focused on that one specific imaginary person.
But wait, let me push back on this for a second, because I know what you, the listener, might be thinking right now. Doesn't strictly narrowing your buyer pool like that run a massive risk of alienating a huge chunk of potential buyers?
It seems like it would, yes.
To use a concrete example, let's say we have a nice 3-bedroom house. What if a young family would have loved the house and happily bought it, but we spent all our time in staging budget, marketing it heavily toward a retiree?
Right.
Like maybe we set up the spare bedroom as a cozy, quiet reading room instead of a vibrant nursery or kids' playroom. Are we leaving money on the table by being too specific and scaring off that family?
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of a high-involvement purchase. Buying a house isn't like buying a new coffee maker or a pair of shoes.
No, it's a huge deal.
It's a massive, life-altering, deeply identity-driven decision. The buyer isn't just buying wood and drywall. They're buying a vision of their future life.
I like that. A vision of their future.
And specificity is what creates emotional resonance with that vision.
Emotional resonance.
Yeah.
Meaning they have to feel an immediate visceral connection when they look at the marketing materials.
Exactly that. In a crowded real estate market where buyers are drowning in choices, a generic house that tries to be a vanilla, blank canvas for everyone is very easily dismissed. It blends into the background noise.
It's forgettable.
Totally forgettable. But imagine a house that feels custom-tailored to a buyer's specific lifestyle. When that retiree sees the reading nook, or when a family sees a beautifully staged playroom with durable flooring, that triggers a totally different neurological reaction.
Oh, I see.
It elevates the thought process from, this is a reasonably nice house, to, this house was designed specifically for the way we live. We have to have it before someone else takes it.
And that urgency changes everything.
That specific must-have reaction is the only thing that overcomes the natural hesitation of a slower market.
That makes a ton of sense when you put it like that. You would rather have two very specific buyers absolutely desperate to outbid each other because the house fits their literal dream lifestyle than 20 casual buyers who walk through the house and think it is just okay but feel no urgency to write a check.
Precisely. You are intentionally marketing to one single archetype to capture the few who will actually pay top dollar rather than watering down your product to appease the masses who will only offer a discount.
Okay, so let's look at the timeline. We've put this highly targeted, perfectly priced, beautifully photographed trap out there into the digital wild. But how do we actually know if the trap is working before it's too late?
Right. How do you measure success?
Exactly. How do we measure if that carefully crafted strategy is succeeding in the real world?
Well, the author points out that most sellers immediately begin obsessing over the completely wrong metric once the listing goes live. They log on to the real estate portals every single day and obsess over the days on market counter.
Oh, yeah. Everyone does that.
They watch that number tick up from 5 to 12 to 20, and it just breeds immense anxiety. The guidance here is to completely ignore days on market.
Ignore it completely.
Completely. Instead, you should treat your listing like a living diagnostic tool by rigorously monitoring two very specific numbers, showings and offers.
Ah, the data decoder ring.
Oh.
I love this part of the material. What do these two distinct numbers actually communicate to a stressed out seller?
Well, showings measure your digital curb appeal.
Okay.
They tell you that buyers are interested enough in the digital presentation, the photos, the targeted description, the online price to actually get in their car and come see the home in person.
Then offers.
Offers, on the other hand, measure the physical reality.
Yeah.
They tell you that buyers are interested enough in the tangible, real-world product to actually commit hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy it.
Wait, if I'm looking at this like a business, are showings basically my top of funnel marketing metrics? They just prove that we successfully got their attention and the digital trap worked.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. Yes, showings are the top of your sales funnel. Did the lead photo stop the scroll? Did the marketing copy resonate with our target archetype? Did the price look attractive compared to the online competition?
Right, and if yes, they book a showing.
Exactly. The buyer enters the funnel and schedules a showing, and then offers become your bottom-of-funnel conversion metrics. When they actually walk through the front door, did the physical product match the digital promise?
I see. So by separating these two metrics, you find exactly where the leak in your strategy is.
Yes.
So let's run a diagnostic. Let's say I am getting plenty of showings. People are walking through the door every single weekend. But I am receiving 0 offers. What is the data telling me?
That specific scenario provides highly actionable information. It means your digital marketing is functioning perfectly. They love the idea of your home. Yeah. But when they arrive, They experience a sensory mismatch.
A sensory mismatch.
Yes, the digital promise is broken by the physical reality, and they ultimately decide the home is not worth the asking price based on what they are experiencing in person.
So we're talking about things the camera literally cannot capture.
Exactly.
Like they arrive and realize there is a busy, loud highway right behind the backyard fence. Or the house smells heavily of wet dog.
Or perhaps an overwhelming amount of air freshener trying to hide the wet dog.
Huh.
Right.
Or maybe the layout feels incredibly cramped in a way, the wide-angle real estate lens cleverly disguised.
Which explains why they leave without writing an offer. The value proposition fell apart upon physical inspection.
That makes total sense.
But the flip side of that equation is equally diagnostic. What if you were getting almost zero showings to begin with? The top of the funnel is completely broken.
Then we have a fundamental awareness or attraction problem.
Right. The issue is systemic. Either the pricing is so drastically disconnected from neighborhood reality that buyers won't even entertain a visit, or the online presentation is so poor they swipe left immediately.
Or your niche marketing is reaching the entirely wrong demographic.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the material is trying to fundamentally shift the seller's mindset here. An unsold home that has been sitting for 3 weeks is not a failed listing. It is simply a listing that is rapidly generating data.
Right, it's talking to you.
The home is actively talking to you through the ratio of showings to offers.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake a seller makes is not mispricing the home by accident or staging a room poorly.
It's ignoring the data.
The truly fatal error is waiting 3 months to correct those mistakes when the data, the lack of showings, or the lack of offers is screaming at you to make a strategic adjustment right now in week 2.
Which transitions us perfectly into the final and, honestly, maybe the most crucial section of the entire deep dive today.
It's certainly the hardest part for most people.
Because waiting months to decode that data doesn't just cost you thousands of dollars in carrying costs and price drops. It takes a massive, often unspoken emotional toll on the seller.
Oh, massive.
Selling a home does not happen in a vacuum. You are physically living inside the product you are desperately trying to sell.
And the author is refreshingly candid about how incredibly stressful the daily reality of that is. Think about the visceral experience of living in a staged home.
Sounds like a nightmare.
You are tasked with keeping the house utterly spotless, magazine-ready every single day. You are constantly scrubbing the pristine granite countertops, making sure there are no water spots on the shower glass.
Just constantly on edge.
You are frantically packing up the kids, wrangling the dog into the back of the car, and vacating your own property for hours on a Tuesday evening just so strangers can poke through your closets.
Oh, man.
And then you sit by the phone waiting for feedback, constantly wondering when an offer will finally materialize.
It sounds utterly exhausting just describing it out loud.
It creates deep psychological fatigue. And eventually, sellers hit a very predictable wall. They reach a point of absolute emotional depletion where they just throw their hands up in the air and say, I don't even care anymore. I just want this process to be over.
And according to the data, that exact moment, that breaking point of pure exhaustion, is the most expensive moment in the entire real estate transaction.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Because intense emotion almost always leads to exceptionally poor negotiations.
Right.
When your only goal is for the pain of the process to stop, you concede on price far too easily. You agree to ridiculous repair credits for minor issues.
You just want out.
You make massive financial decisions based on frustration and fatigue rather than logic and market data.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Because realistically, if you find yourself in this situation, how are you supposed to practically detach yourself from such a deeply emotional space, the literal place you live where all your memories are, especially when you are physically and mentally drained from the day-to-day grind of the process?
The solution presented here brings us all the way back full circle to that core philosophy we established at the very beginning.
Proactive positioning.
Exactly. Proactive positioning. The only way you protect yourself from emotional exhaustion during high-stakes negotiations is by deciding your absolute bottom line before the first offer ever arrives.
Oh, before it even starts.
You cannot decide what financial concessions you are willing to accept when you have been locked out of your house for 4 hours while critical buyers judge your living room.
You're too vulnerable then.
Way too vulnerable. You have to decide it weeks before the for sale sign goes up, sitting calmly at your kitchen table on a quiet Sunday morning, looking at the market data with a clear, rested head.
So it really comes down to trusting your past self. You do the hard work, you calculate the math, you run the worst-case scenario planning before you list the property.
Yes.
Because you know with absolute certainty that you cannot trust your exhausted, stressed-out future self to make a rational financial decision.
You build a framework so you can rely on the blueprint your clear-headed past self meticulously created.
I love that.
That way, when a lowball offer inevitably comes in or a buyer makes unreasonable demands after an inspection, you aren't reacting emotionally, you aren't operating out of fatigue.
You just look at the plan.
You simply consult the predetermined plan. You negotiate confidently based on the bottom line you already established, rather than out of a desperate need to just end the ordeal.
It's almost like you have to be your own strict project manager. You're carefully folding and packing the parachute while you are safely on the ground, rather than trying to frantically stitch the fabric together while you are already in freefall.
That's a great way to put it, which is exactly what attempting to sell a house feels like without a rigorous strategy. Pure freefall.
Okay, let's bring all of this together. We set out today to deeply understand what separates a successful, efficient sale from a listing that just sits there gathering dust in this normalized 2026 market. And the clear through line of everything we've pulled from this Sarasota Expert's Guide is that hope is simply not a strategy. A successful sale is always about deploying strategy over desperation.
It requires intention from day one.
It starts with firmly rejecting the temptation to overprice your home just to see what happens, because that strategy only leads to a stale listing and the dreaded "what is wrong with this house" syndrome.
Right.
It means treating your home's digital debut with the same ruthless optimization as a dating app profile, understanding that the digital swipe left is real and it is final.
It also requires having the strategic courage to market your property to just one specific buyer archetype.
Fully embracing the paradox that trying to appeal to everyone is the absolute fastest way to connect with no one.
Exactly.
And once you are actually live on the market, it's about ignoring the anxiety-inducing days on market metric and letting the raw data be your guide.
Showings and offers.
Your showings prove if your digital marketing is working. Your offers prove if your physical price is accurate. If those numbers are unbalanced, you fix the leak immediately. You don't wait around for the market to magically change.
And finally, you protect your bottom line and your sanity by making all your major financial decisions while you are still calm, well before the immense stress of the actual selling process begins.
Doing that planning before the for sale sign goes up will save you weeks of wasted time and thousands of dollars in lost equity.
It is a comprehensive, deeply psychological framework that entirely removes the guesswork from the equation. You aren't passively hoping for a buyer to stumble along. You're actively engineering the exact environment required for the right buyer to step into.
And as we wrap up this deep dive today, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over on your own time. We've spent this entire discussion dissecting how this hyper-targeted, data-driven, highly proactive framework is the secret to selling a piece of real estate in a crowded, noisy market. But take a step back from houses and real estate for just a second. Think about this framework conceptually.
Okay.
Obsessing over the perfect digital first impression. Having the courage to market your skills to just one specific target audience, rather than trying to please everyone, and knowing your absolute bottom line before you are emotionally compromised or exhausted.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
How might you apply that exact same framework to selling yourself in your next major job interview or during your next high-stakes business pitch? If this level of proactive positioning works for $1 million property, imagine what it could do for the trajectory of your own career.
The psychology of demonstrating value translates perfectly across any industry. It is a universal mechanism.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you walk away a little more informed, a little more strategic, and fully ready to put these insights into practice in whatever market you find yourself in next. Until next time, keep exploring.